you ever researched photography gear, especially for like hours on end, and you've got a particular thing that you want to buy for your camera? In this case, it's L brackets, and the three-legged thing is the one that I've really been wanting to get, but it's pretty pricey for what it is. And then you've got a generic version, and this thing is really inexpensive, but yet has more functionality because it's got more holes to allow for external devices to be attached to, as where the three-legged thing only has one. And I thought, I can't be the only one struggling with this. It might make a good video. So anyways, I got both. This is about 50 bucks. This is about 20 bucks. And if you've struggled with this, then I hope this helps you out, because it's frustrating to spend so much time and go back and forth like, well, I could get it, but then I could return it. But now with Amazon, you get charged all the time for returns. You know, you don't get all your money back in a lot of cases. And it can be frustrating. So with that being said, I'll break these down for you. And then if you've been struggling with an L bracket, yeah, this should help you out. So first, let's start with the weight. Now, in this case, the generic version is actually a bit heavier because it's longer, it's thick, it's wider, and even though they've drilled more holes into it to make it more functional, actually it's really quite well thought out compared to the three-legged thing, I have to say. But nonetheless, it's still a bit heavier. And so you're definitely going to take that into account, because weight makes such a difference. And in my case, I'm using an XT3, which is an APS-C body, and it's a bit lighter. And that's one of the big reasons that I purchased this camera over getting a full body camera, is because it's just more portable. And it's not a big weight difference, but there is a weight difference. Now, speaking of lengths, that is definitely one thing that differentiates these two. Tried to show you guys two ways of mounting this, which is one where you make it so that you have accessibility to the battery compartment, or you can mount it to where you have no access to the battery. You basically have to unscrew it to get to your battery compartment, but it makes it so that it's more flush to the actual body of your camera. So speaking of the holes that they've drilled into each one of these to allow for, you know, external accessories, I wanted to show you guys kind of how I'm doing this, which is basically I'm using it to attach a mic, but you can also, you know, attach a monitor. And one thing I have to say about this cheaper version is that they've allowed so many more holes for attaching multiple accessories, as opposed to where with the three-legged thing, you're limited to just one. So in my case, I'm just putting on the mic, and I'm not able to add, you know, a monitor. Definite win for the $20 version here, in that I could add both and it wouldn't even be a big deal. I mean, there's so many holes. Now, one thing you really want to take note of with these is that they are both ArcaSwiss formatted. So if you've got, you know, a different formatting for your tripod, these aren't going to be for you unless you buy some sort of, you know, conversion as far as a receiving head. But yeah, these are both ArcaSwiss. They work great with regards to that, and just make it so easy when you're trying to do something horizontal or when you're trying to do something vertical. You know, it's very easy to switch to either one, and the weight is well proportioned right over your tripod, as opposed to being like off to the left or off to the right and making your tripod out of balance. Or in a lot of cases, well, in my case with my particular tripod, which is a three-legged thing, I do love that thing. But when you try to actually go vertical, it's super awkward because of the way the dials are on my particular tripod and the head. So anyways, ArcaSwiss, keep that in mind. That is definitely importante. I had mentioned that I was using these for a Fuji X-T3, and one big thing I wanted to show you was how your rear screen may or may not be affected by each one of these. Now, in the case of the lesser expensive L bracket, it's a lot wider, as I had previously mentioned, and the monitor does get a little bit more affected by that. But with the way my monitor articulates, there is an option there where it's not hugely affected. It's only really when you pull the screen more out and try to articulate it that it gets more affected. If you're keeping it closer to the body of the camera, well, at least in my case, it doesn't get as affected. And with the three-legged thing, being that it has a smaller profile, it affects it a bit less, although it does still have an effect on it. So whatever camera you're using, you're really going to want to think about how does your screen pull out, you know, what kind of mobility does it have as far as pulling out to the side, and how is this L bracket going to affect that. So if having a resting spot for your pinky or like a support for your pinky is important, you really have to pretty much cover up the battery compartment to, you know, make it so that your pinky can rest on it. And in my case, I prefer having the battery compartment accessible and not having to, you know, mess with the screw each time. I will tell you the lesser expensive L bracket does come with this screw where you can easily just flip this up and unscrew it, and you don't have to have any kind of tool for it, as where with the three-legged thing you do have to have a tool. Of course, you could always, you know, buy this 1/4 screw and easily convert this, but just a heads up, this actually comes with that, and this does it. By the way, I keep on referencing to the lesser expensive L bracket as the lesser expensive or cheaper version, but this is called, or it's made by FonFon? FonFon. Yeah, now you know. Links in the description. Here's my final thoughts in case it's helpful. I'm ultimately, well, I'm kind of keeping them both. I'm ultimately keeping the three-legged thing, L bracket, to use as my, you know, daily driver kind of thing. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, this is longer, it's heavier, it just is not as convenient in those ways. And ultimately, most of the time, I'm just going to be trying to keep a mic on the end of this. And so this works out perfect for that. It just has a smaller profile and flows better with my particular camera body. The reason I'm keeping this, though, is because you know, in cases where I may be doing video, this works out a lot better, especially because I haven't bought a monitor yet, but it's coming soon, and I'll be doing a review on that too. But eventually I want to be able to attach both a monitor and a mic without having to do, you know, a full body cage for this thing, because that adds a lot more weight. And this really works out perfect for that. So both of these actually have a use case scenario, and I wasn't originally thinking that. So I'm really ultimately glad I bought them both, but I hope, you know, going through the pros and cons of each one helps you decide which is going to be best for your camera body. As usual, any comments or questions, please leave them down below. Links are below. And of course, that helps out the channel. Thank you for that. And thank you for watching, you guys. I will see you in the next one. All right, bye. Let me